여기는 레이크 22, 레이크 22, 산 속에 있는, 산 위에 있는 호수입니다. 산 위에 있는. 그래서 제가 여기서 출발해가지고 아마 이제 여기 있고, 이쪽인가봐요. 자, 여기서 출발해서 이렇게 가는 레이크 22 짧죠? 가봅시다. 저희분 이렇게 나무에
I want to tell you my story. It's also the story of a lot of other young people like me who were worried about the future and decided to do something about it. Let's start at the beginning. I was born in 1992 in Los Angeles, California. That same year, a 12-year-old girl named Severn Cullis Suzuki stood in front of the UN and had this to say.
I am fighting for my future. Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points on the stock market. Do not forget why you are attending these conferences. You are deciding what kind of a world we are growing up in. Please make your actions reflect your words. Thank you.
The Rio Earth Summit was the first time in history that world leaders gathered to discuss climate change and to try to put forward a plan for sustainable development.
Thank you for reminding us that we are responsible for the world and for the future generations.
Severn demanded an answer to the question, what about the rights of youth? What about the generation that will have to pick up the pieces? It is now over 25 years later, and the things that environmentalists were warning about back in 1992 are intensifying at an alarming rate.
Our planet is at a crossroads. A number of island nations are expected to be underwater within 15 years. Our first ice-free Arctic summer within 10 years. Record heat waves, record droughts, and record storms. My name is Slater, and I'm a 17-year-old environmental filmmaker filming a documentary on the global environmental youth movement.
As a youth, we're standing here to say our voices will be heard.
I've been making this film since I was 15 years old. I didn't know it at the time, but I was documenting the rise of the global youth climate movement. This is our story. I grew up in Los Angeles with filmmaker parents, believing that stories could change the world for the better. By age 11, I had a camera in my hand and was shooting interviews as a youth reporter for the My Hero project.
My Hero! What is this? MyHero.com.
It's a website for kids all around the world. Who's your environmental hero?
I'm going to go with Jacques Cousteau.
I interviewed Jean-Michel Cousteau.
Come on then, high five, Slater.
I'd written a story on the renowned marine biologist Jean-Michel Cousteau, and he had invited me to his camp on Catalina Island. I couldn't have been more excited.
We all linked to the ocean. We all connected to the ocean, our life support system. Because the ocean evaporates, see these clouds over there? Well, it's going to go somewhere, and it's going to drop water in the form of rain. And then we put all kinds of stuff into it. And we're using the ocean as a garbage can, so we need to stop that.
Jean-Michel showed me how all living things are connected, and how we can't separate ourselves from the natural world.
Is this a sea urchin?
Yes.
Is this...
It died, and the spines fell off.
There was something different about him. Here was this influential and knowledgeable person who was speaking to me, a kid, like my opinion mattered to him.
There is a secret thing that we hope the children do, and that's to educate their parents. We have a lot of work to do. I'm passing on the baton to you. It's your job now.
Thank you.
Lester Brown, environmentalist and founder of the World Watch Institute and the Earth Policy Institute, says that we need to look at climate change like something to deal with in wartime. We must, look at this with such an urgent sense of emergency that it will propel us to act right now. I believe strongly what he is saying because we have been procrastinating and going on as usual, and therefore we are in deep trouble. Our actions right now have to address our very survival.
When I was 10 years old, my family and I relocated to a farm in Ontario, Canada. Over the next 5 years, I learned more about climate change, and I was determined to find out what I could do about it.
I can just go up and it's not going to be like, who's that kid with the camera?
At 15, I had the opportunity to follow in Severin Suzuki's footsteps and address world leaders as a youth delegate at a G8 summit in Japan.
Kind of wing it, or...
I decided I would bring along my camera and document the experience.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. I'm one of the 2 representatives of Canada's youth, and we are going to actually address and speak with the environmental ministers of the world. We were talking about setting up a one-on-one interview with Minister Baird. It's for a documentary that I'm doing. It would probably be like about 15 minutes or 10 minutes. Okay, great. Thank you. Bye. Oh my God, that was quick.
It would be great if you guys learn how to use the equipment before you
That might be very helpful.
Okay. I know, but so now we know we have a light. That's good.
I'm gathering clothing to pack and everything else that needs to be packed. And silently freaking out.
A 116 youth from 21 countries around the world gathered that week in Kobe, Japan for the 2008 Youth Summit for the Environment.
Hello guys, I'm from Mongolia. My name is Iris.
Hey, I'm Slater and I'm from Canada.
They told us our goal was to discuss environmental issues from the viewpoint of future generations. I wasn't sure what that actually meant, but I was excited to take on this new responsibility and to meet kids from all over the world.
Can you jump, Bob? I'm Abrar. I'm from Bangladesh. And pretty much... Okay, there we go. I'm lost right now.
Wow.
Pause it. Pause it.
Well, we're lost.
Pause it. Right, so starting 2004, we've been having very, very severe floods every year. As a result of that, we've had famine because Bangladesh is a mainly agricultural country, so there's not been enough food being produced. So those who are poorer have not been able to afford the rising prices of food. The frequency of floods and hurricanes, they increase along with the increase in average global temperature. From 1998, where we had one of our most severe floods, to 2004, the average global temperature increased by 0.75 degrees Celsius. So if I just throw it off at you, I don't think that's going to seem like much. But that has in itself caused severe floods every year from 2004 onward to 2008.
Global warming is it's throwing everything out of sync, so yeah.
If you could try and prove that global warming is causing all this, then more people would believe you and try to stop it.
But the thing is, it's already been proved.
Yeah, but not everyone believes it.
You can't make anyone believe anything. That's the problem.
That's the truth.
We have this saying when we practice Kung Fu, that every mortal is responsible for his own destiny. So if you are struck by your opponent, it's not your opponent's fault for striking you. It's your fault for not avoiding that strike. Like, we in Bangladesh, we can't sit here and say that, oh, it's the G8's fault for causing global warming.
Right.
It's our fault for letting them cause it, right? So I'd like the people to wake up. They have to stop being pushed around. People have to put their foot down.
We just need some more feet.
That's good.
We just need some more
Need
feet.
some more feet.
We can put both feet down.
I had set up an interview with John Baird, Canada's Minister of the Environment. I was surprised to learn I would be his only on-camera interview for the entire G8 summit. I was kind of nervous.
Where do you have it to me, just so I know? Can you see my legs crossed?
At the top of your knee. I can go on further.
No. I'll just...
So just good to go anytime?
Yeah.
Is there any way I can talk you into vigorously pursuing the Kyoto Protocol and not just managing the growth, but making big, expensive, painful cuts to CO2 emissions, but well worthwhile in the long run?
Well, Canada's a party of Kyoto. We're not withdrawing from it. We will meet our Kyoto commitments. We just won't be able to meet them in the time frames that are set out. We've got kind of a plan to see deep reductions. It's almost like Kyoto was a 10-year marathon to cut greenhouse gases. But when the starting pistol went off, Canada began to run in the opposite direction.
Canada was one of the countries that had signed the Kyoto Protocol, committing to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But at the same time, the government was aggressively supporting Alberta's oil sands, the largest industrial project on Earth.
What would you think of putting together something where the youth and the adults are involved? Something like a youth council to help shape Canadian environmental policy?
Well, we hear regularly from all kinds of Canadians, young and old, business and environmental, average Canadians. There's not a national consensus to be had. All the premiers from across Canada get together and they can't agree on what to do. The four political parties in the House of Commons, the government opposition, can't agree what to do. There's also another 150 countries, and we need to get them involved too.
Minister, we gotta get going.
You got it.
Thank you, Minister Baird, very much.
Thanks lots later.
Guys, all of us have to make a promise that we'll keep in contact after this is done.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Paul.
Our opportunity to address the environmental ministers arrived.
It was just really surreal going on the stage because I felt like we were acts. And when they called out the countries' names, some of the ministers cheered and stuff. And it made me feel like they were just doing that to seem like they were buddy-buddy with the youth of tomorrow. I felt like we were just like the photo op kids. All my friends are going back and I don't know if I'll see them again. I worry about them because of what's going on in the world. I'm sorry.
I went home to the farm. My new friends spread out around the world. Now all these signs of climate change had a different meaning to me. When I heard about rising sea levels, I thought about Abrar and Michelle in Bangladesh. When I heard about forest fires and extreme drought, I thought about Phil and Alex in Australia. These disasters were affecting friends that I cared about. Meanwhile, it seemed like decision makers were living on another planet.
I'm looking at the Excel sheet for a survey that I put into motion at my school. Just asking about global warming and stuff.
Japan had left me unsure about how much I could really help, but I didn't want to just give up and let these new friends down. I remembered that John Baird told me, once the camera was off, that he expected big things the following year at something called COP15. Whatever that was. That's when I learned that since 1992, world leaders had been meeting in different countries each year to discuss climate change. These meetings were called the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, but most people just called them COPs. The next COP was going to be in Copenhagen, Denmark. Momentum was building because a new American president would be there, one who was pushing for a strong climate deal.
So many of us are here today is a recognition that the threat from climate change is serious, it is urgent, and it is growing. Our generation's response to this challenge will be judged by history.
President Obama had the goodwill of the world on his side and a strong mandate to make change.
Our prosperity, our health, and our safety are in jeopardy. And the time we have to reverse this tide is running out.
COP15 in Copenhagen was shaping up to be a potentially historic moment. I decided to go. I applied for media accreditation and made preparations to continue filming in Denmark, with no crew save for my producers, Dan and Wendy, aka my mom.
See myself in the pouring home. See the light come over, no. I see myself in the pouring rain. I watch hope come over me.
The Bella Center was ground zero for the official negotiations. Over 50,000 people descended on the city, and they all wanted in. We weren't sure our accreditation would be waiting for us. We tried to get in our first night there.
Apparently we can't go that way because they found 2 bombs on a train, so we have to go back on the bus.
Or should we get a taxi?
Horribly.
Okay. We're going to the Bella Center.
Bella Center?
Yes.
It's closed for today. Sorry.
When did it close?
5 o'clock. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock tomorrow
8
morning?
o'clock, yes, it opens again.
Basically, there's like 500 American young people here.
Yeah.
Almost 2,000 international young people. Literally like every corner of the freaking globe. Getting this is going to be hard today. I think you might not be able to get this.
Yeah.
And even if you do get this, then you have to go to the Taking It Global folks and ask them for this.
Okay.
So, welcome to the UN process.
Thank you.
It's just as clear as Congress, right?
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
Mine is inside. I have to pick it up. I'm from Canada. I'm with a documentary.
Last night.
14 hours and 2 days in line.
Oh, God.
So what's just happened?
It seems that I was able to get my accreditation and my badge to go into the Bella Center, but it appears that DB and Wendy are not in the system and have not gotten their badges.
You're going to take the camera and try to get what you can in there on your own because we have been sidelined.
Own event in terms of the reception.
I don't really know where to go or who to meet because
I don't really know anyone here, so I'm gonna just keep going around and see if I can find anyone. I'm really freaking out because I'm all by myself in here, and I feel like an idiot, and I don't know who to go to, and I'm feeling really, really scared and bad, and I'm gonna try to go get some interviews.
I was alone in the secure zone. I was scared and desperate to find somebody who I could actually relate to.
So maybe if you could just start off saying who you are and who you're working with.
Sure. Just let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
So my name is Kyle Gracie, and I'm the chair for Sustain Us, which is a U.S. youth-run and U.S. youth-focused sustainable development organization. And so we've been participating in the climate negotiations for several years now, advocating for youth-focused and future-focused policies to help ensure a sustainable future and to help combat climate change. So right here, we're basically trying to ensure that a really strong deal comes out of the climate negotiations, working with a lot of international youth from around the world in solidarity on the same issues and trying to push for strong climate action. I just want to share the passion of youth and understand that we're here, we're ready, we're involved, and we're just going to get bigger. We're not just here to say that when we get older that we tried. We think that we can have an impact, and we won't stop until we see the clean energy future that we all want.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
When I met Kyle and his friends, it felt like a light turned on. Here were the other young people doing what I wanted to be doing. They were dedicated and taking this seriously and making a real difference. Kyle had told me that if I wanted to meet other youth activists, I should leave the Bella Center. The real action was taking place all over the city.
We talk a lot about physical impacts to communities, to infrastructure, food security. The problem is that the people who make the decisions just don't give a damn what we have to say.
When I look at the official negotiations going on, you see those old representatives, those diplomats, talking fluffy language about their national interests. And when you compare that to the optimism and the entrepreneurial thinking and the creativity among youth, there is a huge gap.
We're going under the pond to try to get into the negotiations that are going on between the U.S. and African youth delegates.
I mean, you can't count the number of deaths caused by the floods. And you can't stand out the tears flowing when you see how people are being washed away by these floods. And you can't also stand back and see how people are dying of hunger due to drought. I mean, all these are effects of global warming. People are dying and we are going to kill millions. Yeah.
Across Copenhagen, youth were meeting from countries all over the world, all of whom cared deeply about the climate crisis. They were sharing their experiences and beginning to form a strategy to get their voices heard.
So many young people, millions of young people around the world seem to be able to understand and come together on, and we wonder why our leaders, the people who are supposed to represent us, can't do the same.
I feel like what's going on here in Copenhagen is kind of a sham in many ways. The conference is, if anything, kind of more about climate domination by the rich and powerful, and that it is an international negotiation, including people from around the world and their voices. And the youth are definitely one of those voices being shut out the doors. Our future is the biggest one at stake, so why don't we have a say in our own lives?
Well, thank you, Emily. I think that's good.
For while the reality of climate change is not in doubt, I have to be honest, as the world watches us today, I think our ability to take collective action is in doubt right
now. Copenhagen felt like a betrayal. I was tired and disillusioned, and I wasn't the only one.
What's come out of it has already been decided, and it's more money making, more profits for corporations. That's what behind this summit really is to put. It's the greenwash. Look around, this is what it's all about, it's the greenwash.
Early the next morning, the youth started to organize the biggest action so far. It was now or never. Some were calling for drastic action, maybe even violence. I quickly felt out of my depth.
Follow them? Even though it's the green group?
It's the green group?
Yeah. They're the more radical group.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
too.
Okay, what's your feeling? Would you rather go to Bell Center and try to get in, or would you rather just crawl along?
I don't really know. I'm kind of nervous about either way, I guess. But,
about what?
I guess about the demonstration, but it's kind of what we want to film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to call? I don't really think I have it in me for being with the radical group.
Watching the demonstration online, I felt like I should have been there. I was embarrassed that I was too afraid to go. And I had to ask myself, is there a place for me within this movement?
We have all worked for the past 2 years with the promise of a strong deal in Copenhagen to safeguard our future. Now it seems you will not get it done. This is unacceptable. We place our trust in you. You should be ashamed.
It seemed like the youth had finally found its voice in Copenhagen. But would anyone ever listen?
I went to Copenhagen this December. The feeling before I left was that this was a last-ditch effort to set into motion the policies that would lead us into a green, sustainable future. Instead, I came away with an overwhelming feeling of disappointment and shame that my Prime Minister had let me down and not represented me or you or the millions of young Canadians demanding action on climate change now. In 1992, the year I was born, our world leaders gathered at the first climate change conference in Rio de Janeiro and told us they would take action on climate change. 17 years have passed. 17 years, and still our leaders are not leading. We've given our government enough time. Now there's no time left to give. If they aren't willing to lead us into a future that we would be proud to leave our children, then they should get out of the way. Yes. We can't afford to wait any longer. Thank you.
As young people, we felt like we had to be at the next climate talk in Cancun, Mexico, and keep trying to hold leaders to account. We had to ensure that the conference wasn't just negotiators and corporate lobbyists making backroom deals with our future.
Copenhagen was sort of the center of gravity, or a focal point for a ton of tension and frustration. Because the process failed so powerfully, a lot of this Cancun meeting feels like baby steps to try to rebuild some of the trust that was completely broken last year.
So which ones are you going to? Young people bring a different perspective on things. The next 40 years is going to be when this transformation of society is going to happen. So that's going to be our lives. That's going to be me getting a job, growing up a bit more, maybe settling down with a family. That sort of thing's going to be impacted. So what do I want my future to be? I want it to be, I don't want it to be Star Wars and, Daleks and things. I want it to be simple things like green jobs and a cheap train to visit my mum, and a sort of positive society where our energy doesn't come from a war zone. And I think young people can bring that to the negotiations, and they can change things. They can be in the room and they can change the negotiations. It's pretty cool.
So I grew up in an area that was coal country, sort of the extension of the Appalachian Mountains. And I grew up around coal. My parents had worked in coal. Like, I knew it was energy, and I knew people had jobs doing it. And I started to see that, it was also kind of dirty. So I got sort of early on that coal can be good and it gives us power, but it can also be really dangerous and dirty. And then they started in my area also building wind turbines. I started to learn about it. I was like, people have jobs doing this too. And it doesn't have all of these dirty consequences that coal does. The benefits that come from fighting climate change are also about cleaner air and water, better jobs, more innovation. And these are all good reasons to act on something regardless. We all want those things. We want a better world. We all agree on that. And we have a whole bunch of ways to do it. So why are we sitting around talking about it? Let's go make it happen.